Part 60. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 615. The third update has arrived. This is the first year he has spent abroad. Not only does Luan Dajiang not feel disappointed, he is also quite happy. In the past, during the Chinese New Year, when the whole family got together, Grandma would always find something to make everyone unhappy. Being with her comrades, happily making dumplings, eating New Year's Eve dinner, and greeting each other when they got up in the morning, made him feel heavy in his heart of joy. Luan Dajiang's little friend Zhang Dong's mood is completely opposite to Luan Dajiang's. He was very happy to be able to join the army. Among the three good friends, he was the only one chosen. The sense of superiority made him particularly proud. In fact, in order to show that he was different, he ignored Luan Dajiang and Wang Lin after being selected. He felt that it would be a shame to stay with them again. Little did he know that the life in the army was so difficult. When he returned to the dormitory after training every day, he wanted to lie motionless on the bed like a dead dog. However, the army had regulations and he was not allowed to lie on the bed before the rest time. Various rules and regulations took him a while to adapt to. After finally getting used to it, his friend Luan Dajiang, whom he had always looked down upon, unexpectedly joined the army and was in the same class as him. He didn't know if it was Luan Dajiang's special request. Anyway, he didn't like to talk to Luan Dajiang at first, and he didn't want others to know that they were good friends. He thought it was right to be good friends with the stupid Luan Dajiang. A very embarrassing thing. Fortunately, Luan Dajiang was quite sensible and ignored him. He just pretended not to know him, and the two of them got along like strangers. He was even looking forward to seeing Luan Dajiang's jokes. A person with such a stupid brain will definitely not be liked by the leader. However, things were beyond his expectation. Luan Dajiang's physical condition was better than his training results were better than his, and he got along better with his comrades than him. After the acting squad leader left, Luan Dajiang was actually elected as the squad leader. The person he despises has become his immediate boss. On the day the news was announced, he hid in bed and stayed awake all night, tears streaming down his face. Unwilling to be reconciled, he quietly spread the news, saying that Luan Dajiang was rejected during the military inspection and that he could become a soldier through the back door. He thought, such news can arouse everyone's anger. In fact, a few people did start to find fault with Luan Dajiang, however. But there are more people who don't believe the rumors at all. Just when he was thinking about how to add some information to make everyone believe it, the platoon leader came to talk to him. Tell him clearly that the leaders already know that he spread the rumors. If he behaves like this again, we will consider expelling him directly. At the subsequent company meeting, the company commander made it clear in person. Luan Dajiang did not pass the military inspection before. The main reason was that his cultural level was somewhat lacking. But because of his outstanding personal abilities, the leaders made the final decision after research. Give him the chance. But at the same time, he was also given an order to seize the time to study cultural courses and make up the exam after 1 year. In fact, since joining the recruit company, Luan Dajiang has indeed been learning cultural knowledge in his spare time. He is also particularly eager to learn and ask questions. Now there are a lot of people in the company who say good things for him. Zhang Dongzi felt that those people were extremely hypocritical. They simply liked the sense of superiority of being asked for advice. It was difficult to explain clearly, so they used to praise Luan Dajiang in a disguised way to praise themselves for their knowledge. He made up his mind to train hard and try to impress everyone. However, no one really saw his efforts, and everyone still focused on Luan Dajiang. Later, he finally understood that everyone surrounding Luan Dajiang was not as simple as he had imagined before. They were basically using this method to deliberately show favor to the leaders. For the sake of his own future, he hesitated again and again and decided to make peace with Luan Dejiang. He thought that as long as he took the initiative to show his kindness, Luan Dejiang would follow him obsessively and listen to him in everything he said. However, the fact is that after he took the initiative to go to Luan Dejiang to admit his mistake, the other party just said that he understood and nothing more happened. They were still like strangers to him. What else do you want him to do? In the past, Luan Dejiang and Wang Lin only obeyed his orders, but now they have just embraced the leader's lap and want him to obey Luan Dejiang's orders. It's impossible. Since then, he and Luan Dejiang have become indifferent again. As a result, fewer and fewer people play with him. All the comrades in the same dormitory are close to Luan Dejiang, so he is naturally isolated. Therefore, his life this year was boring. However, this also made him realize that he must put down his arrogance and get along with Luan Dejiang, otherwise, he will become more and more isolated. A letter from home said that Luan Dejiang's cousin married a regiment leader, then everything will be clear. Everyone is trying to please Luan Dejiang's brother-in-law. If he continues to behave like this, he will really destroy himself. After thinking about all this, he got up early, packed up, and went to Luan Dejiang to come out to pay New Year's greetings. Luan Dejiang did not reject him, but along the way, he clearly felt that everyone was obviously more enthusiastic about Luan Dejiang than him, which made him very uncomfortable, but for the sake of his future, he could only endure it. After celebrating the New Year and having lunch and taking an afternoon break, Zhang Dongzi took Luan Dejiang to find a secluded place and mustered up the courage to further show his goodwill to Luan Dejiang. Dejiang, let's be friends like before. You should make peace with Wang Lin first. Ah, Zhang Dongzi thought he heard wrongly. What I mean is, you should be friends with Wang Lin first. Only when he recognizes you can I be a good friend with you. Luan Dejiang looked at him seriously. I really thought of you before. We are like brothers, but you stabbed me and Wang Lin alive. Now you want to be friends with me, not because you really want to be friends with me, but because you have no choice, right? I'm not a fool, please don't treat me like a fool, okay? Then you can't blame me entirely. I admit that I was wrong. I was too young and a little unable to take on things. Being praised by everyone for being so light-hearted made me feel that I was really superior to others and that I was no longer a rural person. Now that I think about it, I also feel like a bit of a jerk. Dejiang, I will write a letter to Wang Lin tonight to have a good relationship with him, but this will not affect the two of us continuing to be brothers, right? After all, we are from the same village. If our relationship is so tense, it will only make outsiders laugh, don't you think? I don't feel that way. Luan Dejiang saw Zhao Qiliang walking over from a distance and waved his hand to Zhang Dongzi. My friend is here to see me. You can go about your business. I have nothing to do. Let's go with you. I know brother Qiliang anyway. Zhang Dongzi made up his mind to pester Luan Dejiang today. Of course, he is also cautious. Maybe Zhang Dongzi's brother-in-law, the leader of the regiment, can come, we can meet him then. Maybe you will fall in love with him, maybe he will become famous. Have you finished celebrating the New Year? Zhao Qiliang glanced at Zhang Dongzi behind Luan Dejiang before asking. Luan Dejiang nodded with a smile. Well, I finished my prayers before lunch. I took a rest and planned to go find brother Liang later. My mouth has become sweeter. Zhao Qiliang punched him in the chest and said, I'm done, I'll take you out for a walk. Brother Liang, you should accompany your sister-in-law. It's Chinese New Year and we are both free at last, so you don't have to worry about me. I'll go out with my comrades in the afternoon. She and Hunky accompanied her father-in-law and mother-in-law to visit relatives. I was afraid that you wouldn't be able to adapt to celebrating the New Year outside in the first year, so they didn't go together. Zhao Qiliang said while dragging him out. Don't worry about my mother-in-law, Chusia has always been worried you, she is not free, so of course I, the eldest brother, will do it for you. Sister is so kind to me. Luan Dajiang thought for a while and said, Brother Liang, how about we go to my sister's house to pay New Year's greetings to my uncle and aunt? Zhao Liang thought for a while and agreed, okay, let's go and give them New Year greetings, but I should bring some gifts when I go now. You wait, I will go back to the dormitory to get them. Good. When Zhao Liang walked away, Luan Dajiang looked at Zhang Dongzi, I'm busy, so don't follow me. Dajiang, I have nothing to do. Let's go with you to pay New Year's greetings to my uncle and aunt. We used to get along very well with them. It's strange that we haven't seen each other for so long. No, Luan Dajiang refused without thinking. He joked and asked Zhang Dongzi to follow him. That was just looking for trouble. I promise, I will listen to you in everything. Zhang Dongzi made up his mind to follow. If he fails to seize such a good opportunity, he will regret it for the rest of his life. Anyway, he has already risked his face, so he might as well risk a little more. Son. You want to be shameless, Luan Dajiang looked at him, his face flushed with anger, do you think I don't know what your plans are? Did you hear that my sister married the group leader, and you wanted to take advantage of it? Dajiang, after all, we are fellow villagers. We are brothers. We will share the benefits with each other and we won't be at your disadvantage. Zhang Dongzi pulled him and said with a serious face, I promise, I will listen to you in everything from now on, even if the official is bigger than you, he will listen to you. Luan Dajiang. He was really defeated by the other party's narcissism and didn't know what to say. Zhang Dongzi thought he was tempted, so he quickly made some more assurances. Little did he know that his behavior made Luan Dajiang feel even more disgusting. Stop talking, okay, Luan Dajiang pushed him away, I won't take you with you no matter what you say. He was stupid and understood the truth, but he didn't know how to say it, so he used the most direct words. Zhang Dongzi happened to be possessed by an evil spirit today. No matter how much damage the other party did, he could suppress his anger and get even worse. Luan Dajiang's words not only did not make him angry, but instead he laughed, look, you are acting like a child again, by the way, don't you like my sister? I'll write a letter later and ask my parents to promise my sister to you. Luan Dajiang. To be continued. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 616. The fourth update has arrived. Dajiang, you know better than anyone who Sci-fi is. If you can marry her as your daughter-in-law, your parents will definitely enjoy the blessing. As long as you are willing to take me with you, I guarantee that Sci-fi will be the daughter-in-law of the Luan family. Luan Dajiang's speechlessness made Zhang Dongzi, who was eager to take advantage of his position, think that he had grasped the opponent's 7 inches, and further seduced him. Zhang Dongzi, you said before that Sci-fi wanted to marry a high-ranking official and asked me to stay away from her. Luan Dajiang finally said this after holding it in for a long time. You were not worthy of her before, but now, you are definitely worthy of her. As long as you work hard, you will definitely be a high official in the future. My sister will follow you, and she will be the best. Zhang Dongzi walked towards Luan Dajiang affectionately. Minato said, my sister is hard-working and capable. When you were not prosperous, she took good care of your parents-in-law at home, so you don't have to worry about anything, right? Can you be your sister's master? Luan Dajiang looked at him with disbelief. Xiaofei, when did you ever listen to your words? Please stop bragging, okay? It used to be before, and now it is now. Since I became a soldier, she has listened to me. She writes to me to discuss everything. She used to be a child, and she didn't take it seriously when she was playing around. But now she is older and understands I am doing this for her own good, so how can you disobey me? As for my parents and grandparents, You can rest assured that as long as I say a word, they will happily agree to the marriage. Daejeong, I am thinking about you. Think about the situation of your family. In less than 2 years, Xiaoxiang will get married. By then, your parents will live with your mother. When your father is not at home, your mom doesn't even have a helper, how can she survive the day? Luan Daejeong likes Zhang Xiaofei very much, but he hasn't fallen in love with her yet. To the extent that she could forgive Zhang Dongzi for his mistakes, the latter reason Zhang Dongzi said made him a little tempted. He talks little and is naive, but that doesn't mean he is stupid. He has seen clearly how his grandma treated his mother since he was a child. When he and his sister were at home, although grandma was noisy, she was still a little scrupulous. Especially when in front of him. It can even be a little more restrained. Xiaoxiang wrote to him recently. Since he joined the army, he has become more and more difficult to take care of. He would sit in the yard and curse people no matter what happened, without referring to anyone specifically. But as soon as I heard it, I knew I was scolding his mother. Xiaoxiang means that she will not get married until he takes a wife. However, he could not let his sister delay his lifelong events. If he could marry a wife and go home early, his sister's lifelong events would not be delayed, and his mother would be able to live a more comfortable life. Of course, the premise is to marry a kind and filial daughter-in-law. Xiaofei grew up with him. What kind of temperament? He knew very well that otherwise, he wouldn't be able to like the other person, but Xiaofei was a very thoughtful girl. He didn't know if he could believe Zhang Dongzi's words. There is another problem. If he really marries Zhang Xiaofei, then he and Zhang Dongzi will become real relatives, and they will not be able to avoid it in the future. Zhang Dongzi's parents are snobs, and his grandparents can be a little stronger. Will his parents really have an easy life as an in-law with such a family? He is not sure. Luan Daejeong's hesitation made Zhang Dongzi impatient. If you say you don't like my sister, I'll never mention it in front of you again. But I won't say it again. If you regret it in the future, don't think I'm a stumbling block for you. No, Luan Daejeong, who was still undecided at first, was so agitated by him that he immediately expressed his stance. If you treat him like this now, how will you get along with him if it really happens? He was able to join the army because of the help of his brother-in-law. He knew this very well, so he always worked harder than others because he didn't want to embarrass his brother-in-law. In fact, their family is no longer related by blood to his uncle's family. They helped him because of their past feelings. He couldn't really treat himself as an outsider. He didn't believe in Zhang Dongzi's character, and he couldn't believe that if he really established a relationship with Zhang Xiaofei, Zhang Dongzi would definitely ask him to ask his brother-in-law for help. If he didn't agree, Zhang Dongzi would definitely instigate Zhang Xiaofei to not be good to him. Instead of going back and forth when the time comes, it would be better to simply refuse now. After the recruit period, he can go home to visit his family. At that time, he can ask the matchmaker to introduce him to a well-informed wife, which will save him worries and rest assured. As long as the other party is willing to take good care of his parents, he will not treat him badly in this life. People. He knew how much he weighed, and a high-minded person like Zhang Xiaofei would most likely look down on him. When he was in elementary school, he was assigned a lower grade because of his poor studies. He was in the same class as Zhang Xiaofei. He was the last, and Zhang Xiaofei was the first in the class. After elementary school, he went home to work in the fields, but Zhang Xiaofei went to junior high school. It's not that the Zhang family doesn't support her, they can probably continue to do so. Now that the country has resumed college entrance examinations, maybe Zhang Xiaofei also has this plan, so why do people think of him as a big shot? If he fails to pass the military academy, it will be difficult for him to have a big future in this life. At most, his brother-in-law will help him become a volunteer. It is impossible to become a real officer. After all, his academic qualifications are there. But it was really difficult to get into the military academy at his level. In the past few months, he had studied hard and had just finished reviewing the elementary school courses. Several well-educated soldiers in his class promised him to give him junior high school tuition after the Chinese New Year, and he was determined to make a name for himself, but he had no idea whether he could succeed or not. Taking everything into account, he decided not to daydream. Zhang Dongzi didn't expect Luan Dejiang's answer to be so straightforward. He was stunned for a while and then said, "Are you sure you are telling the truth? Are you sure you don't want to marry my sister?" Luan Dejiang nodded without hesitation, "Okay." Dejiang. Zhang Dongzi's attitude suddenly softened, "You are so eager to deny it? I know you are afraid that you will have to help me if you become in-laws with our family. Yes, I am so eager to please you just because I want you to give me a hand. However, I am capable. As long as you give me a hand, I will be able to get along well and I will never trouble you again in the future. Moreover, I can also guarantee that I can help you more in the future. Father and son go into battle, and brothers fight tigers. Although we are not real brothers, with my sister in the middle, we can be regarded as real brothers, right? Even in the army, it is difficult to stand up without a solid person. Your brother-in-law cannot always help you after he brings you in. What will you do if you have no one to help you? You said that you served as a soldier for a while and had such a good backing, but in the end you were demobilized. Do you think you still have the honor to stay in the village? Do your parents have the honor to go out? As juniors, we can't just think about ourselves, we also have to think about our parents who have cared about us all our lives. Their faces depend on us, don't you think?" Luan Dejiang looked at Zhang Dongzi in disbelief. He really didn't expect that after what he said, the other party could suppress his anger and persuade him like this. It seemed that he really didn't understand this former brother. "Dejiang, believe me once. If my sister is really caught in the middle, I can't possibly plot against you. And I didn't plot against you before. I was just young and ignorant. Now I know I was wrong. Give me a chance." "Okay." No, Luan Dejiang shook his head quickly, "If you just want to associate with me, I have no objection. If you want to use me to meet my sister and brother-in-law, I don't have the power, so don't make things difficult for me." "Dejiang, you are talking more and more skillfully now. If I hadn't heard it with my own ears, I wouldn't have believed you said such words." Zhang Dongzi gave a thumbs up, "I really looked down on you before, no wonder my brother-in-law is willing to help you, but if you don't have the strength, they won't be able to help you, right?" Calmly, Zhang Dongzi changed his strategy and began to praise Luan Dejiang. Zhao Qiliang hurried over with the gift, and saw that Zhang Dongzi and Luan Dejiang were talking enthusiastically. He unconsciously slowed down. At this moment, hearing what Zhang Dongzi said, he simply stood there without moving. He wanted to look at Luan Dejiang's reaction. When Zhang Dongzi changed his strategy, Luan Dejiang was happy for a moment. After all, the boy who had looked down on him since he was a child began to recognize him. But then he realized that their purpose was to use him to get close to Lin Chuxia and Zhou Mikang. Although the other party didn't know that his brother-in-law was Zhou Mikang yet, they knew that his brother-in-law was the group leader. That was enough. He was a little at a loss, but to be honest, he kind of enjoyed this feeling, which made him feel that he was somewhat useful, but if he thought about it carefully, there seemed to be something wrong. While he was thinking about it, Luan Dejiang began to praise him with eloquent words again. This time, he finally figured it out. What the other party said was not true. The purpose was to make him faint so that he would agree to his request. After talking for a long time, I still thought he was a fool. Just when he was about to get angry, he saw a car driving towards them. "It's Chuxia and they are coming." Zhao Qiliang pushed him and took the lead to greet him. The car door opened, and Chu Xia and Luo Xiaoxian got out. "Brother, Daejiang, where are you planning to go?" Chu Xia asked. "We were planning to go to pay New Year greetings to my sister-in-law and uncle." Zhao Qiliang raised his net bag. "No one comes empty-handed during the New Year, so I went back and brought some sex." "Okay, bring it up. My parents will definitely pretend to be more for you later." Chu Xia smiled and pushed Luo Xiaoxian. "What kind of lady are you pretending to be? It's not the first time I've seen you. Who can you show to me by acting like this? Who is so shy?" Luo Xiaoxian rolled her eyes at her. "I was thinking, Luan Daejiang has healed his scar and forgotten the pain." She nodded her chin towards Zhang Dongzi. "Didn't you say you won't play with him anymore? Why are you acting like this again? Did we go together? If you think the website is good, share it more. Thank you readers for your support. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 617. One update arrived. Finally, someone noticed him. Before Luan Daejiang could speak, Zhang Dongzi hurried forward and smiled flatteringly at Luo Xiaoxian. "Sister, do you still recognize me?" "Ha!" Luo Xiaoxian looked at him speechlessly. "Your grandma's family is from our village. In the past, she and Daejiang Xiaoxiang always went together to visit relatives, and even went to our house to steal apricots to eat. Can I not recognize you?" Zhang Dongzi smiled coquettishly. "I was young and naive back then. It's been several years now. I thought I couldn't remember what I looked like." "Put it down. Last year during the Chinese New Year, you went to Grandma's house and we still met. How come it's been several years?" "Zhang Dongzi, is it your brain that's not working well or mine?" It's me." Zhang Dongzi admitted his mistake again and again. "Actually, it's not that my brain is not good. Seeing the two sisters all at once, I felt anxious and my brain couldn't turn around." "Daejiang, why don't you say anything?" Luo Xiaoxian looked at Luan Daejiang who was standing aside. "Didn't you promise not to associate with this villain anymore? Are you just teasing us?" "No." Luan Daejiang looked at Zhao Qiliang for help. In front of Zhang Dongzi, he was still embarrassed to speak too harshly. In terms of age, both Luan Daejiang and Zhang Dongzi are still children. In Zhao Qiliang's view, what Zhang Dongzi needs now is correct guidance. He is a bit eager for quick success and a bit snobbish, but if everyone rejects him so much, maybe his path will become more and more crooked, and it may eventually destroy him. Sighing, Zhao Qiliang looked at Luo Xiaoxian. "Daejiang and Dongzi are comrades in the same class, how can they not interact with each other? He is a good boy who knows his mistakes and can correct them. Don't beat him to death with a stick, right? They are fellow villagers. Want to? If you really do it, don't say anything and let outsiders laugh." In the same class, Luo Xiaoxian was stunned. Looking at Chu Xia, "Do you know about this?" "I know." Chu Xia nodded and patted Luo Xiaoxian on the shoulder. "Let Daejiang handle his own affairs. Don't nag him for the Chinese New Year." "Sister, no." Luan Daejiang looked at Chu Xia anxiously, wanting to explain, but worried about Zhang Dongzi's face. His face turned red from holding back. Chu Xia looked at Zhang Dongzi. "We have known each other for more than a day, and I have a rough idea of your personality. Think about what you did to Daejiang, and look at what he looks like now. Do you have any thoughts in your mind? Take a look at Luan Daejiang." Zhang Dongzi bit his lip and said, "Daejiang has a good heart and is sincerely good to me. I shouldn't look down on him when I choose to be a soldier. Nor should I deliberately expose his shortcomings when I see him joining the army. Compared with him, I am not a human being, but a sister. I know I was wrong. Now my comrades are unwilling to pay attention to me. If Daejiang continues to ignore me, I can't stay in the army anymore. Sister, I promise. I will definitely help Daejeong in the future and no longer be jealous of him. I will never do anything wrong to him again. If I do it again, sister, you will punish me to death, okay? It can be seen from his expression that Jang Dongzi is not sincerely grateful to Luan Daejeong, but he is smart and knows what to say at this moment will be more flattering and more heartwarming. During the Chinese New Year, Chu Xia didn't want to lecture anyone, and she really felt that it was Luan Daejeong's freedom to make any friends. If they had warned him, and he still had to be friends with the people who plotted against him, what harm would he suffer in the future? He also found it himself. Therefore, she stopped talking to Jang Dongzi and turned to look at Zhao Qiliang and Luan Daejeong. Brother, Daejeong, there are Yanko performers in Xinshui Street. Let's go and see them before going home. Okay, Zhao Qiliang responded and walked towards the car. Luan Daejeong hesitated and looked at Jang Dongzi. Go back and stop following me. I also want to go and see. Jang Dongzi looked at him eagerly. Daejeong, no one in the class wants to talk to me. It's the first time I'm spending the new year alone outside. I miss home. Being with you, I feel a little better. He wanted to refuse outright, but what Jang Dongzi said moved Luan Daejeong, and he scratched his head in confusion, not knowing what to do. Chu Xia, who was walking behind, listened clearly to the conversation between the two. Speaking of which, Jang Dongzi didn't do anything that caused substantial harm. Forget it, fellow villagers. She turned back to look at the two of them. If you want to go, hurry up, car. Thank you, sister. Jang Dongzi's brows and eyes were immediately filled with smiles, and he took the initiative to push Luan Daejeong forward. Daejeong, good brother. When he got to the car and saw who was driving, Jang Dongzi's legs suddenly stopped working. Then, he put his legs together and saluted with trembling hands. Happy New Year, Chief. Zhou Mixang looked at him calmly. Get in the car. Yes, Jang Dongzi quickly followed Luan Daejeong and got into the car. When he saw Luo Hunky, he quickly greeted Luo Hunky with a trembling voice. Brother Hunky, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Luo Hunky smiled at him and moved inside. Xinshui Street was crowded with people, so Zhou Mixang parked the car aside. I'll wait for you here. Let's go together. Chu Xia poked him. The new year is all about the fun. What's the point of riding alone in the car? I'm not going. Zhou Mixang waved his hand. I'm old and not interested in this kind of thing. You guys have fun. When you're done, I'll take you to eat delicious food when you come back. 3 black lines immediately appeared on Chu Xia's forehead. In the eyes of the group leader, were they all children? I won't go either, I don't like watching, Jang Dongzi said. Luan Daejeong frowned. Just as he was about to say something, Chu Xia dragged him down. Let's go, don't act like a big-tailed wolf. I brought you out just to watch the fun. Luo Xiaoxian, Zhao Qiliang, and Luo Hunky also got out of the car. As the group walked away, Jang Dongzi twisted his butt uncomfortably. Zhou Mixang glanced at him lightly and said nothing. Regiment, leader. Jang Dongzi spoke with a trembling voice. Explain. I will do a good job. Zhou Mixang. Captain, I stayed here on purpose, Jang Dongzi said again. Zhou Mixang didn't answer for a long time, so he had no choice but to continue. I know I was wrong in the past, and I will change it. Don't worry, Captain, I will never do anything to disgrace Daejeong again. Zhou Mixang turned his head and looked at him. You should say this to Daejeong, right? I told him, but he didn't believe it. I just wanted to tell you, the leader, that I would follow him. I either want to take advantage of him, or I want to correct my mistakes. If it weren't for Luan Daejeong, he wouldn't have had the chance to talk face to face with the group leader. Jang Dongzi knew this very well, so he cherished this opportunity. He also knew that everyone would hate him if he stayed like this, but I just couldn't control my determination to seize this opportunity. When he actually stayed with the group leader, he realized that he didn't know what to say, so he started with Luan Daejiang, hoping that the group leader would care about him for a few words, and then, if he continued to chat, the group leader would find him. Much better than Luan Daejiang. He also felt a little bit guilty for his thoughts, but he had been competitive since he was young and couldn't care so much. If the people in the village knew that Luan Daejiang was more senior than him, then where would he put his face? Unfortunately, he found that his plan could not be carried out at all. The group leader ignored him at all and allowed him to talk to himself for a long time, but the group leader refused to respond. What can I say about stand-up comedy? After all, he was only 18 years old, and Zhang Dongzi didn't know what to do. He could only sit in the back, sobbing, his face turned red from suppressing it, and the corners of his clothes were twisted and wrinkled. Daejiang, you see, that Zhang Dongzi is not a friend at all among the crowd. Luo Xiaoxiang seized the opportunity to teach Luan Daejiang a political lesson. You must keep your eyes open when making friends in the future. In addition to taking advantage of you, this kind of person will also. What are you doing? Balabalabala. There were so many people. Luan Daejiang strained his ears to listen, and nodded while listening. Finally, when Luo Xiaoxiang stopped talking, he summed it up, Sister, Zhang Dongzi can't fool the leader. Let him try. He will do it. I've given up. Luo Xiaoxiang. The lover's heart is transparent, she is the one who is stupid, right? Chu Xia laughed and said, you're just worrying about it. De Zhang knows what's going on. It's just that he's kind-hearted and doesn't want Zhang Dongzi to come to power in front of others. Play with me. Luo Xiaoxiang was so angry that she flicked Luan Daejiang's forehead. Why don't you explain it to me and make me waste so much time? I'm dying of thirst. It's not good to interrupt my sister. I'm afraid she'll be angry. Just pretend to be stupid. Luo Xiaoxiang snorted and walked up to Zhao Qiliang. Did you already know what he was thinking and didn't stop me on purpose? No. Impossible. Luo Xiaoxiang stared at him. Without you, how could you help Zhang Dongzi speak and let him come out with us? Tell me, is it that you and Luan Daejiang had already discussed the countermeasures and deliberately hid it from me? Really not. Zhao Qiliang looked at her helplessly. I just think that Daejiang has his own principles of doing things. Besides, we can't always be by his side to teach him in the future, right? Only when you fall can you pay more attention in the future. Suffering a loss is not necessarily a bad thing. Also, what Zhang Dongzi wants to do is to use Daejiang to establish a relationship with the group leader, and then create opportunities for him. Although it's okay if Daejiang doesn't help him connect, don't forget that people have the nature to sympathize with the weak. Although Zhang Dongzi was originally at fault, if Daejiang develops better than him and obviously can help him, but deliberately does not extend his hand, some people will naturally make irresponsible remarks. Daejiang's parents both live in the village, can they really not care about the rumors? So, why not just go along with Zhang Dongzi's wishes and let him say bad things even if he wants to? Anyway, the leader is definitely not someone he can fool, so why should we mess with the villain? To be continued. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 618. The second update arrives today. It is the principle that one would rather offend a gentleman than a villain, but this makes Luo Xiaoxiang very unhappy. Why should he be more tolerant towards villains? If you put it this way, who would still want to be a gentleman? She looked gloomy and didn't speak for a long time. Chu Xia looked at her for a few times and poked her funny. Why are you unhappy? Are you being stupid when you use other people's mistakes to punish yourself? I just feel unhappy. Why do the bad guys take advantage of her? Uncle Bao, he is always bullied because he is so honest. Aunt Zhong loves to take advantage and say bad things, but no one wants to offend her. You said that if you hadn't been lucky enough to marry Captain Joe, let Uncle Baohi and Aunt Yulan survive, and find relatives, wouldn't they have been bullied in the village? Why are you talking about my parents? Chu Xia looked at her funny. You are not in a good mood today. If you want to be normal, you must say that my parents are kind and honest, and they will be rewarded in the end. Mrs. Zhong loves to take advantage and say bad things, and ultimately she teaches her daughter bad things and harms her for the rest of her life, right? Hey, after a long sigh, Luo Xiaoxian waved her hand angrily. Forget it, I won't think about it anymore. I don't know what happened to me today. I always like to think about the worst. When I see the bad guys getting their wish, I just don't want to. Happy. Zhang Dongzi is not a bad person, he is only 18 years old. Chu Xia patted her. If you think about it, you won't be so angry. He used to be the most outstanding among the three, but he was suddenly suppressed by Dejiang. It is normal to feel uncomfortable and do some inappropriate things. Of course, this doesn't mean that what he did was right. It can only be said that in terms of character, he owes something, but if we kill him with one shot now, maybe we will destroy a person. He and Dejiang have been playing together since childhood. If he really goes astray, Dejiang will feel uncomfortable. Even if it is for Dejiang, just bear with him. Dejiang is not a stupid person. We won't be disappointed. Well, since you said so, I won't worry about it anymore. Looking at the dark crowd, it was not as crowded as it seemed when I walked in. While they were talking, several people had already heard the sound of Yanko gongs and drums. During the Chinese New Year in my hometown, some people would go to the village to dance Yanko on the first and second day of the lunar month, but they would only stay in the village for about 10 minutes at most. In this era of poor entertainment life, the Yanko dance that can be seen every year is also highly anticipated by everyone. Luo Xiaoxian, who had a gloomy look just now, squeezed to the front of the stage and saw the fancy costumes of the Yanko team. During the exaggerated performance, I burst out laughing. Chu Xia and Zhao Qiliang looked at each other and laughed helplessly. Finished watching Yanko. A few people went to buy a lot of candied haws, fried rice cakes, and fried chestnuts, and then they walked back with more to come. Although in later generations, the entertainment life is extremely rich, and snacks are all available. But now the feeling is equivalent to a long drought followed by gentle rain. In early summer, it seemed that this was the most lively year she had ever experienced. Luo Xiaoxian had already put her previous unhappiness behind her. She held up a candied haws and ate it like a happy. Then, suddenly, Happy freezes. Chu Xia followed her stiff eyes and frowned. A young woman was sitting in the passenger seat, chatting animatedly with Zhou Mixang. After looking at her for a few times, Chu Xia was sure that she didn't recognize the woman. Feeling Luo Xiaoxian's accelerated pace, Chu Xia grabbed her and said, "I'll do it myself." "Okay," Luo Xiaoxian responded, holding her hand and squeezing it. "Don't be frightened, we are here." She has a black streak on her head in early summer. Is she so timid? Before reaching the car, the door opened and Zhou Mikang got out first, followed by the woman next to her, looking at her with a smile. "This is Yang Minhua, just call her Sister Yang," Zhou Mixang said. The woman waved her hands repeatedly. "Brother Zhou, I can't afford it." "Sister-in-law, just call me Xiao Yang." "Happy New Year, Sister Yang." Chu Xia was very considerate to Zhou Mikang and called Yang Minhua as he requested. "Sister-in-law, I'm younger than Brother Zhou, please don't call me that." Yang Minhua's delicate face turned red, whether from shame or anxiety. "Chu Xia is much younger than you, so it's appropriate to call you Sister Yang," Zhou Mikang said and sighed. "Manhua is Xiaoreo's best friend. He often went to our house to play. I didn't expect to meet him here." "Oh," Chu Xia responded twice, not knowing what else to say. "Brother Jojo, I won't disturb you anymore. I will visit my grandparents, uncles and aunts in a few days. After I came back, I was thinking about taking time to visit the elders. Unexpectedly, I met brother Jojo here. What a coincidence. Joe Mikang nodded, okay, I'll go back and tell them. They will be very happy to know that you are going there. I don't know if my grandparents, uncles, and aunts will recognize me again if they meet me again. Yang Minhua sighed and waved to a few people, brother Joe, sister-in-law, bye, everyone, bye. Goodbye. Chu Xia waved politely in response, with a smile that was just right, giving people a feeling of spring breeze. Yang Minhua couldn't help but smile at Joe Mixang, third brother, congratulations. I didn't expect to meet third brother today. I didn't get any gifts. Bring it, I will definitely bring the wedding gifts of the third brother and the third sister-in-law when I get back. Joe Mikang agreed happily, okay, just don't spend too much money. Zhang Dongzi huddled behind alone, and was obviously relieved when he saw everyone coming up. In other words, it was very difficult for him to sit on top and said that he wanted to go down but didn't dare. He stayed up there for fear of hearing something he shouldn't have heard, but it tortured him to death. He is very grateful to Luan Dejiang now. Regardless of whether his performance today can be remembered by the team leader, anyway, Dejiang has created opportunities for him, and that is enough. Later he wrote a letter to tell his parents that Dejiang had met a nobleman and helped him. He asked his parents to help Uncle Luan and Aunt Luan if he had nothing to do. If possible, it would be best to marry his sister to Dejiang. He could also see that the leader should like Dejiang, a person like Dejiang who rarely talks and knows what to do. From then on, Dejiang's future will definitely be good. With such a brother-in-law, his future should also be good, right? Everyone was not as cheerful as when they arrived. Of course Joe Mikang understood the reason. With his character, he would not explain it to anyone. However, he had to worry about his wife's face. After a moment of hesitation, he broke the silence. Chu Xia, Xiaoreo's legs are not good, can you tell? Have you? Chu Xia was stunned for a moment, thought about it carefully for a while, then shook her head, I really didn't notice it. When Xiaoreo was kidnapped, she was with Xiaoreo. In order to catch up with the other person's car, she was shot in the leg by the other person. After hearing this explanation, Chu Xia understood. No wonder Joe Mikang had a different attitude towards Yang Minhua. Originally, she didn't mention it because she was celebrating the new year and didn't want to make Joe Mixang remember the sad things again, but now that the other party said it herself, she didn't have anything to hide. From what she meant, it seems like she has never been here, went somewhere else. She had a very good relationship with Xiaoreo. After knowing that Xiaoreo was gone, she couldn't lift her spirits. It happened that her father was sent to serve in the Yugoslav embassy, so he took her there with him. She never came back after that. Everyone also lost contact. I saw her just now and took the initiative to say hello to her. Fortunately, she met someone she liked in Yugoslavia and now has a 3.5-year-old son. When she came back this time, she planned to settle in the country with her husband and never go out again. Chu Xia sighed and said, he is also a child who values friendship. Joe Mikang. He is several years older than her. Even based on Chu Xia's real age, he is still older than Yang Minhua. He actually calls her child. Realizing the problem with her title, Chu Xia smiled coquettishly, you just said she has a 3.5-year-old son. Thinking of her age, I was a little confused and used the wrong words. Everyone. No, everyone looked like they were waiting for a black line, which forced Chu Xia to explain again, I mean, my mind is still thinking about the past. Well, I was wrong, don't you think so? Can you look at me like that? The real situation is that she was thinking about Josei Aureo. He was still a little girl when he passed away, so she just said that he was a child. However, this matter cannot be explained in a real way, otherwise Joe Mikang will be sad again. One game. Joe Mikang could roughly guess the reason, but seeing that she was trying every means to cover it up, he didn't expose her and changed the subject. I bought so many delicious things, can you still eat at night? Yes, Luo Xiaoxian finished chewing a candied hose and took a sour breath. I'm already hungry now. Leader, you said you would take us to eat delicious food, why do you have to go home again? When did I say I was going home? You said you can still eat tonight, didn't you mean you want to go home now? Joe Mixang glanced at her lightly and was too lazy to talk to her. The car drove straight to an inconspicuous small shop. After getting out of the car and following Joe Mikang in, everyone discovered that this place was a unique place with a variety of snacks and snacks. This is the only place open during the Chinese New Year, so you can choose whatever you like to eat. After Joe Mikang said this, he sat still in his chair. This feeling is really like a parent bringing a group of children out to have a tooth ceremony. Although her parents pamper her, the family does not have such conditions. The feeling now is especially like when she was young, her parents and grandparents took her to eat delicious food. It's also celebrating the new year over there, right? Mom, Dad, and grandparents should be with that early summer now, right? What are they doing? Are you still happy? Inexplicably, Chu Xia felt her eyes became sore. In order to hide her emotions, she lowered her head and pretended to chew snacks. To be continued. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 619. One update arrived. Since Joe Mikang sat down, his eyes have been following Chu Xia vaguely. Of course, he immediately noticed something was wrong with Chu Xia. There were so many people that he couldn't say anything, so he stood up and walked to her side. Quietly he held her hand and squeezed it comfortingly. Chu Xia's vision was blurred by tears, so she took the opportunity to rub it on his sleeve, picked up a clip to pick up the snacks in front of her, and put them into the paper bag. This shop feels a bit like a small supermarket from later generations, which makes Chu Xia feel particularly friendly. She even secretly wonders, maybe the owner of this shop also came from time travel, right? Then I felt that I was too funny. If I really traveled through time, how could I open such a small snack shop? The predecessor of this store was the nationally famous Kam Ki, which was later closed down. Now the store is run by the grandson of the old shopkeeper, who is my classmate and learned this method from abroad. In the beginning, it was quite controversial, but now, many people come here intentionally to buy things. Of course, it is also important that their food is delicious. Is this kind of store allowed to operate by oneself now? Chu Xia asked doubtfully. The old shopkeeper has saved many revolutionaries, so he made an exception. The old shopkeeper's last wish before his death was that his craftsmanship could be passed on, so this shop was created. Oh, Chu Xia responded and continued to choose various foods. Old Joe, with a slightly hoarse and honest baritone, a man in his late 20s or late 20s, came over. He was different from Joe Mikang's rugged appearance. This is an elegant man. Joe Mikang turned around and smiled at him. I came here to wish you a happy new year. Are Uncle Jin and Aunt Jin in good health? Well, they are in good health. The man reached out and punched him in the chest. I've been waiting for you all day. I come only once a year. You said you didn't come until most of the afternoon. It seems that my position as a friend in your heart is getting lower and lower. Am I here? Joe Mikang pointed to Chu Xia and introduced him. This is your younger brother and sister Lin Chuxia. Chu Xia, this is Jin Yu, the shopkeeper of this store. Happy New Year, brother Jin. Happy New Year to my brothers and sisters. Jin Yu punched Joe Mikang on the chest again. It's not fun. You didn't even notify me when you got married. If I hadn't met. Are you still not going to tell me? You have wronged me. I came to see you before the wedding, but you happened to be away. I told Li Mei from your store and asked her to tell you. How can you beat me up now? She didn't tell me. Jinyu looked at a young woman standing at the checkout at the door. Li Mei. Come here. When the other party came closer, he asked straight to the point, old Joe is here before the wedding. I asked you to inform me. Why didn't you tell me? Li Mei's eyes flashed and she said, I forgot. How can you forget such a big thing? Jinyu glared at her. I haven't told you before that when Lao Zhou and Lao Mei came to see me, they must inform me. How could you forget? I'm sorry. Li Mei apologized with her head hanging down. Jinyu waved to her, you can leave now. I will help you pay your salary tomorrow. When Li Mei heard that she was going to be fired, she became anxious and said quickly, Master, I didn't mean not to say it, it was the master and his wife who didn't let me say it. Why? Jinyu raised his eyebrows. My parents have always liked Zhou Mikang, how could they stop him? It's true. If you don't believe me, you can ask the master and his wife. Li Mei was so anxious that she almost burst into tears. If I lied, master, you can send me away immediately. Seeing that Li Mei didn't look fake, Jinyu frowned even more. Old Joe, there must be some misunderstanding. We haven't seen each other for a year. Are you willing to go home with me? It's right to go and see Uncle Jin and Aunt Jin. Zhou Mikang looked at Chu Xia. There is a study room here in Jinyu. You can go over and talk to everyone, pick out your favorite snacks, and go to the study room to read for a while. Well, we'll be back in 40 minutes at most. Okay, Chu Xia responded and walked towards Luo Xiaoxian and others. Jinyu arranged for Li Mei to take the guys there for a while, and began to look Zhou Mikang up and down. Are you really in love? We're already married. What are you asking? Zhou Mikang glared at him. That's your serious sister-in-law. Respecting her means respecting me. Do you understand? I understand. Jinyu nodded repeatedly. I feel relieved when you look like this, Lao Zhou. I didn't expect that someone in this world can really conquer you, haha. Zhou Mixang looked at him calmly. Don't just look at me, haha, you are older than me. Uncle Jin and Aunt Jin are worried to death, right? Jinyu grimaced. My scar has just healed, and yet I come here to expose someone else's scar. How can I be so unkind? If you didn't say harsh words, could I deliberately expose your scars? Seeing Chu Xia coming over, Zhou Mikang stopped talking and took the lead to walk out. The Jin family lived about 1 kilometer away from the store. Chu Xia felt that the car had arrived at its destination within 2 minutes of starting the car. After getting off the car, Jin Nian pointed to the small yard with grey walls and red tiles and introduced to Chu Xia, brothers and sisters, this is our family, and there is no comparison with the Zhou family. It's antique and very charming. Chu Xia turned to Jinyu and smiled, I like this feeling very much. My dad will be extremely happy if he hears this. Jinyu stepped forward and pushed open the courtyard door, taking the lead to walk in. My dad designed and built this house. If anyone praises this house, he will immediately be able to treat people as close friends. Jinyu is telling the truth. Zhou Mikang patted Chu Xia's head. When it's quiet, just praise this house. I guarantee you won't be able to leave until tomorrow morning. I have black lines all over my head in early summer. Isn't this too exaggerated? Jinyu glared at Zhou Mixang. Old Zhou, I want to tell my old man what you said. Let's see how he deals with you. You actually slandered him like this. Aren't you just worried that he will talk to his younger siblings more? You are not generous enough. Jinyu, have you forgotten that I stayed at your house all night? Jinyu rolled his eyes. My dad likes people to praise his house for its good design and construction, but it's not to the point of nagging him endlessly regardless of the person he's talking to. I told you that time because I was worried about your divorce. He ran away from home and deliberately held you back. Do you think he is really willing to talk to you? Don't be too sentimental. Chu Xia looked at Zhou Mikang in surprise. Do you still want to run away from home? No. You dare to say no? Jinyu looked at him. that was the time you got second in the class in the exam. Were you afraid of being scolded by your grandparents when you went home, and were you thinking of going to Ludong to find some of your relatives? Xiaomi, a man in his 50s, heard the voice and came out to greet him. When he saw Zhou Mikang, he had a look of surprise on his face. Come on, come on. I haven't seen you in a year. Xiaomi has grown taller again. Come on, come in. Dad, do you have nothing else to say? Jinyu looked at his father speechlessly. How old is Zhou Mikang? If he can grow taller, you might as well say that he has added another wrinkle. It is said that a child who is only 27 or 28 years old, where does the wrinkles come from? Jin's father's eyes fell on Chu Xia. This is Xiaomi's wife, right? Happy New Year, Uncle Jin. Chu Xia greeted quickly. Happy New Year, Happy New Year. Your aunt will be even more happy when she sees you, Uncle Jin said while shouting inside. Old lady, Xiaomi and his wife are here. Hey. An urgent response came out, and several people entered the hall, but no one was seen. Where did this old woman go? Uncle Jin looked at him in confusion. Going to the toilet. She is really lazy and pees a lot with a little effort. She can go to the toilet. Then he looked at Zhou Mi Kang, take your wife and sit down quickly. Uncle will make tea for you. Xiao, bring something delicious to Xiaomi and his wife. Don't just stand there. Dad, please sit down. Jinyu pushed Jin's father down on the sofa. The tea you brewed can kill a person, so let me do it. After Jinyu made the tea, a woman in her 50s came out of the room with an embarrassed smile. I'm late, I'm late. I have to dress festively to meet my new wife. I went to change some clothes. Everyone. Old lady, I'm really impressed by you. Father Jin looked at her speechlessly. You were wearing a red coat just now. Now if you change it, it will still be a red one. I don't know how hard you went. What do you mean? That's different. That one is light red. This one is bright red. Of course you have to wear bright red for a big event. It represents the sweet feelings and the prosperous days, Jinmu said and handed over a big red envelope. To Chu Xia, daughter-in-law Xiaomi, this is what uncle and aunt wanted. When you got married, we were not able to go, and we didn't let Jinyu go. It was our fault. Now uncle and aunt have made up for the gifts, and there is something not thoughtful about it. You too, please be patient. Auntie, no, no need. The red envelope was too thick, so Chu Xia quickly rejected it. Take it, kid, otherwise your aunt and I will feel bad. Jin's father looked at Zhou Mikang. Let your wife take it. My uncle and aunt know that you are not short of money, but this is our wish and we must accept it. Zhou Mikang looked at Chu Xia and said, take it. Thank you, uncle and aunt. Holding the big red envelope in her hand, Chu Xia felt a little hot. She estimated that there would definitely be no less than 1,000 yuan in it. In this era, this was really a lot of money. Afraid that Zhou Mikang would not understand the situation, she handed the red envelope to Zhou Mikang. It's too valuable. Dad, Mom, it seems that you really knew about Xiaomi's marriage and deliberately hid it from me. Jinyu frowned and looked at his parents and asked, do you know what my relationship with him is like? This kind of thing, son, I shouldn't be absent no matter what. Can you explain the reason in front of us now? To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 620. Second update arrived. Uncle Jin sighed and looked at Zhou Mixang. Xiaomi, are you disappointed with what uncle and aunt did? No. Zhou Mikang shook his head. My uncle and aunt have known each other for more than a day or two. I know very well what kind of people you are. I must have had special reasons to allow you to hide my marriage. If it's not convenient to tell you the reason, don't be embarrassed. I can understand it, really. You kid is different from before. Uncle Jin looked at him with relief. If I put it aside before, whether you mind or not, you would never have been able to explain so much to your uncle and aunt. This man, it is very important to find a good wife, especially with a personality like yours. Fortunately, you have finally met the right one. I congratulate you first and wish you a sweet couple and a lifetime of happiness. Jin's mother quickly answered, your uncle's blessing is my blessing. Jo Mikang and Chu Xia stood up and thanked them in unison before sitting back down. Jinyu still looked unhappy. Obviously, he was very concerned about his parents blocking the news of Jo Mixang's marriage. Father Jin sighed and looked at his son. Xiao, do you know what your cousin thinks about Xiaomi? So what? Jinyu frowned. Just because she likes Lao Zhou has to marry her, right? And I can't not go to Lao Zhou's wedding just because of her, right? She hasn't come to the house very much in the past 6 months. Have you ever thought about the reason? Did she come less often? After thinking about it carefully for a while, Jinyu's expression softened a little. It's because she came less often. It seems that she hasn't come in nearly half a year. Why? Hey, he sighed heavily. Jin's mother wiped the corners of her eyes and said, after Lian Rui celebrated the New Year last year, didn't she go to the countryside to find her classmates? This child was too bold and went alone without saying a word. As a result, there was a huge pause. After a while, Jin's mother said, in the end, Daor was robbed. After coming back, your aunt found that she talked less than before. She just thought she was still in a mood after meeting her classmates. It wasn't until she was more than 4 months pregnant that she realized something was wrong with her. Your aunt asked again and again. She just told the truth. The child would definitely not be born. Your aunt came to see me, so I asked your Aunt Chi for help, and finally got rid of the child quietly. You're such a careless kid. She stayed at our house for confinement after her miscarriage. What do you think would be the consequences if she knew about Xiaomi's marriage at that time? Don't blame us, there is really nothing we can do. She secretly hid a bottle of sleeping pills and wanted to commit suicide. It was your aunt who discovered it in time that prevented it from causing a catastrophe. Your dad and I don't think she still has anything to do with Xiaozhou. Just, when you are in the worst mood, you will probably be even more pessimistic when you hear that the other person is getting married. After discussing it with your dad, I decided to explain to Xiaozhou later and let her take care of herself first. Xiaozhou. This is what happened. My uncle and aunt knew that it was quite selfish to make such a decision. But under the circumstances, we really had no other option. Even after this step, the child rarely comes over again after she recovers. It's not that she doesn't appreciate our kindness, but it's because she can't get over it because she's afraid that seeing us will remind her of the things she least wants to think about. Anyway, when a girl encounters something like this, in this life. Shaking her head, Jin's mother said no more. After my aunt found out, she didn't report the crime, Jinyu asked. If you report the case, won't everyone know about it? How will Lian Rui get married in the future? Jin's mother sighed. If we didn't want you to misunderstand, your father and I would not be willing to tell this matter. Jinyu frowned and said no more. He originally wanted to say, wouldn't this allow criminals to get away with justice, but when he said it, he felt that it was meaningless to say it. Spitting and killing people, of course, he had to choose to live or let the criminals be punished. He also secretly blamed himself for being too careless. He only thought that his aunt and uncle were having another conflict, so he brought his cousin over to stay, but it turned out that he had experienced such a serious thing. Jo Mikang didn't say anything either. Not only did comforting him have no effect on this kind of thing, but it also seemed like he wouldn't get back pain if he talked while standing. So he just kept silent. Not to mention now, even in the future, if a girl encounters such a thing, she will be left with permanent trauma in her heart. Chuseok can understand what Jin's father and Jin's mother did, so she stepped forward and took Jin's mother's hand. It's all I'm not good, I made it difficult for my uncle and aunt. Child, how can I blame you for this? Jin's mother smiled bitterly. We knew that if we hid it, we would reveal it during the Chinese New Year, but we still hid it. Alas, you should blame us if you want to. It's a Chinese New Year. Yes, it will make you unhappy following me. Uncle, aunt, I don't blame you for this. Anyone else would do this. Chuseok glanced at the room and changed the topic. When I saw Brother Jin, I was still thinking about what kind of my parents could bring up such an elegant and temperamental man. It was only when I came home that I realized that with such tasteful parents as my uncle and aunt, and living in such an antique house for a long time, my whole temperament must have settled down. It's a pity that I'm so old, otherwise, I would definitely join in the fun and cultivate myself into a girl with an elegant and bookish temperament, so that Jo Miksang won't laugh at me for being a country girl. Jo Miksang has black hair. When did he call her a country girl? It's hard to persuade people to put him under the knife, right? As expected, Jin's father's eyebrows lit up when he heard Chuseok praise the house. He got up and went to the study to get the design drawings, and explained his design concept to Chuseok bit by bit. Amen, there is a little person in Chuseok who has been repenting in her heart. She will never do such a heartless thing again. She obviously knows nothing about architecture, but in order not to ruin Jin's father's face, she still has to pretend to be very knowledgeable. She looked so excited. Oh my God, kill her. Fortunately, Jo Miksang and Jinyu were very kind and only let Jin's father talk about it for 10 minutes before they quickly stepped forward to join the discussion and rescued Chuseok. They originally planned to leave after 30 minutes, but because of what Jin's father said, it was already 40 minutes, and Chuseok and Jo Miksang were still sitting firmly in the room. Jin's father finally went to the bathroom, and Jinyu quickly took the drawings back to the study for him, dragging Jo Miksang out and saying, "There's no need to say goodbye to him, otherwise, you really won't be able to leave tonight." Jin's mother also nodded repeatedly. That's right, this old man is afraid that no one will tell him this, and he won't stop talking about it. There are still friends waiting for you, so it's not a waste to stay here. After visiting relatives, you must come to the house. Have a meal. It wasn't until the car drove out that Jinyu breathed a sigh of relief. Laojo, I was wrong. I really thought my dad's problem was cured. The last time my uncle told him about this, he had a look on his face. He looked uninterested, but I didn't expect that he would go separately. As long as you have even the slightest interest in this aspect, Uncle Jin will not be suppressed like this. Jo Miksang glared at him. You are really unfilial. It's not that I haven't worked hard, but I'm not born with this kind of strength. As soon as I sit in front of the drawings, I yawn endlessly, Jinyu said while shaking his head. Even I am confused. How come I can't do anything at all? I haven't inherited my father's merits. You can see that he is proficient in everything from music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, but I look quite educated, but actually I can make some cakes. You dare to say that in front of him? You wouldn't dare. Jinyu shrank his neck reflexively. If I really said that, the old man could harvest me with a sickle. Do you believe it? My aunt, he saw a person passing by the car. Jinyu, a woman in her 50s, was stunned for a moment and said quickly, "Stop the car. I see that she is not in the right mood." Jo Miksang had already begun to slow down when he shouted out. Even so, when the car stopped, it was already a long way away from Aunt Jinyu, so he had no choice but to shift into reverse gear and go back. The car suddenly stopped beside her, and Aunt Jinyu was startled. When she saw who was getting out of the car, she burst into tears. "Auntie, what's wrong with you?" Jinyu asked anxiously. "I was planning to go to your house. Xiaoyui has been admitted to the hospital. There is no one at home." I'm thinking of asking your mother to help go over and take care of her during the day, Aunt Jinyu said while wiping her tears. The child looks fine. Who knew she couldn't think about it anymore, but she was rescued at least. Your uncle felt embarrassed and moved back to Grandma Xiaoyui's house. Xiao, Auntie came to your parents for help because she really had no other choice. Auntie, don't worry. It's time to let my parents help at this time. Do you think this is okay? I'll go to the store and drive over to accompany you to the hospital. Can you wait at our house first? Okay, Xiao, thank you. Auntie, why are you being polite to me? Jinyu patted her comfortingly. How about you get in the car and go to the store with me, and I will take you directly to my home. The aunt was a little confused now, so she just asked what Jinyu said, and followed him into the car obediently. When she saw Zhou Mikang and Chu Xia in the car, she quickly said hello politely. When she looked at Zhou Mikang, her eyes were obviously a little confused. Complex. It's not like she hadn't thought about making this child her son-in-law, but it was a pity that her daughter was not so lucky. Oh, forget it, she turned her head away from the car and forced herself not to think about the past. Zhou Mikang was not familiar with her, so he just greeted her politely and said nothing more. Chu Xia had nothing to say to her. For a while, the car fell into a vacuum-like silence. Anyway, Jin's house was close to the store, so in more than 2 minutes, the car stopped in front of the store. As soon as he entered the store, Zhou Mikang went to the counter to check out, and Chu Xia went to the study to find Luo Xiaoxing and others. Of course Jinyu didn't charge a few people, but when Zhou Mikang threatened that if he didn't accept it, he would never come over again, so he had no choice but to let Zhou Mikang settle the bill. To be continued. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 621. The third update has arrived. Hey, after Zhou Mikang left with Chu Xia and his party, Aunt Jinyu sighed heavily and smiled bitterly. Xiaoyui used to daydream. How could Xiaozhou like her? Auntie, let's get in the car. It was hard to express his opinion on this matter, so Jinyu didn't answer. Zhou Mikang drove a group of people to the station first and put Zhang Dongzi down. No matter what, he would not let Zhang Dongzi go back to his home. He would not be short of food for that person, but he could not let him feel that his rogue methods it really works. Let's pick up Ernio and join us. Looking at the time, Zhang Ernio should have gotten off work, so Chu Xia suggested. Luo Gangshun and his family would stay at Zhou's house for dinner in the evening. As the Luo family's daughter-in-law-to-be, Zhang Ernio stayed here alone. It was inevitable that Luo Gangshun and Fat Ant would be worried about it. It was just a matter of convenience, so why not pick it up together? No need, Luo Hunky said. In his opinion, it was already a step too far for their family to go to Zhou's house. It would be inappropriate to bring Zhang Ernio with them. What you say doesn't count. Chu Xia glared at him, and just as the car stopped, she pulled Luo Xiaoxing out of the car. Niu, it's not fun for you to be here alone during the Chinese New Year. Come home with me. After tidying up the things on the table, Wang Chunli looked at Zhang Niu, who was still sitting there reading a book, and invited her. Zhang Niu raised her head and smiled constrainedly. Teacher, the food in the cafeteria is very delicious. You don't have to worry about me anymore. Go home quickly and don't keep Dao Tao waiting. Wang Chunli couldn't help but sigh. Dao Tao was her son. I am 9 years old and in the 2nd grade of elementary school. My relationship with my father-in-law and mother-in-law was average, and I stayed there throughout the winter vacation. Her son was locked up at home. Only she and her husband could go out and be crazy for a while after get off work. Then you. Before she could finish her words, there was a knock on the door. When she looked up, she saw it was Chu Xia and Luo Xiaoxing, and she laughed. He said, "Second girl has a companion. I won't worry too much. Goodbye, teacher. Happy New Year, Director Wang." Happy New Year, Director Wang. Several people greeted each other almost at the same time. The young girl sitting at another table curled her lips. She was Ning Kinkan, another student led by Wang Chunli. She looked down upon Zhang Erniu. She was originally a trainee nurse, silly and stupid, but the teacher actually liked her and turned her into a trainee doctor to teach her. Sisters. She felt extremely embarrassed and said that she also disliked her friends. Also, even though she was sitting here, the teacher only invited Zhang Erniu, treating her as if she were nothing. Is this bias too much? Let's go, pack up and come with us. Wait for Wang Chunli to go out. Luo Xiaoxian hurriedly helped Zhang Erniu pull things on the table. My brother and the others are waiting outside. There was also a stranger in the room. She didn't mention that the group leader was in the car. Uncle and aunt are back, Zhang Erniu asked. It was strange to say that she had always been nervous about meeting her future parents-in-law, but since they had New Year's Eve dinner together last night, she had become close to her from the bottom of her heart. No, we'll pick you up and go to dinner with you. When Luo Xiaoxian said this, Zhang Erniu knew that she was going to Zhou's house for dinner, and she immediately became anxious. She wanted to say no, but was afraid that Chu Xia would be unhappy, but when she went, she became nervous when she thought that the group leader's Wangzi was there too. Said with shivers in his calves. Luo Xiaoxian looked at her with a funny face. Sister-in-law, my brother is here, I can't sell you. I. Looking at Chu Xia, Zhang Erniu didn't know what to say. Money, Ning Kinkan muttered in a low voice, picked up her bag and walked out. Zhang Erniu, don't forget to lock the door. What did you just say? Luo Xiaoxian stood in front of her. If you have the guts, say it again. Xiaoxian, it's okay, it's okay. Zhang Erniu quickly reached out to pull Luo Xiaoxian. The teacher has a rule that whoever leaves late should lock the door. She was right to ask me to lock the door. I didn't say anything about locking the door, it was her scolding you. Luo Xiaoxian blocked the door and refused to let go. Ning Kinkan, apologize to Zhang Erniu immediately, otherwise, you will never get out of here. If you don't go out, you won't go out. Who is afraid of you? Ning Kinkan rolled her eyes and sat back again. She could see that she was no match for Luo Xiaoxian, and naturally she would not push forward. Okay, if you can stay here today. Luo Xiaoxian turned to signal Chu Xia and Zhang Erniu to go out. Then she stared at Ning Kinkan. Are you sure you won't apologize? Why should I apologize? Ning Kinkan glared at her. I didn't do anything. Sorry for her, why should I apologize? You are bullying others by taking advantage of the number of people, but because of me. Bang. Before Ning Kinkan could finish speaking, Luo Xiaoxian slammed the door shut. With a click, the lock was locked on the door. She then pushed Zhang Erniu and Chu Xia. Let's go, let's go. Chu Xia definitely didn't like girls who had this kind of inexplicable sense of superiority and liked to bully others, so she didn't feel that Luo Xiaoxian did anything wrong at all. As a sister-in-law, she should stand up for her sister-in-law, so she walked out happily without saying a word, but Zhang Erniu was a little worried. Xiaoxian, I know you are good to me, but like this wouldn't it be better if she locked it inside? I asked her, and she said she wouldn't apologize. She also said that she would stay in there all the time. I was trying to help her. Is there anything wrong with that? Luo Xiaoxian pushed her away. I'll take the responsibility if anything happens. Hearing what she said, Zhang Erniu didn't dare to go out. What a joke, this incident happened because of her. If my sister-in-law was really punished, how could she have the honor to marry into the Luo family in the future? She stretched out her hand. Xiaoxian, give me the key. I don't care what she scolded me. Really, I am stupid in the first place, and what she scolded is right. Can you be a little more angry? Luo Xiaoxian looked at her speechlessly. I'm fighting for you, why do you have such an attitude? It's not worth it to affect your future because of her. Zhang Erniu looked at her seriously. Neither your brother nor I are promising, and the Luo family is pointing at you, so nothing can happen to you. What could happen? She could only criticize me a few words, but she was actually cursing, and she herself asked me to keep her there. What are you afraid of? Luo Xiaoxian dragged her away forcefully. Can she stay there? If there is no sound inside, it means that you are very happy in there, so don't worry about it. Ning Qingqin was really not in a hurry. She thought that Luo Xiaoxian did not dare to really lock her in. Therefore, she neither yelled nor screamed, and just sat there steadily waiting for Luo Xiaoxian and Zhang Erniu to come back to her. Open the door. Unfortunately, after waiting for 5 minutes, there was no movement outside the door. After waiting for 10 minutes, there was still no movement. At a quarter of an hour, she couldn't stand it anymore and ran to the door, shook it, and shouted. Unfortunately, by this time, Luo Xiaoxian had already dragged Zhang Erniu into the car and left the station. Along the way, Zhang Erniu was so panicked that she tried every means to hope that someone would support her in going back and opening the door. Unfortunately, no one, including Zhou Mixang, meant to blame Luo Xiaoxian. After the car stopped at Zhou's house, Zhang Erniu sighed and stopped talking. After the juniors left, Luo Gangshan and Fat Ant began to report to Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan about the recent events in the village, such as whose wife and daughter-in-law had a child, who had a baby, and who had a quarrel. Whose old man is seriously ill, and whose family is getting better. Unconsciously, I felt that it was almost evening. I looked at the time and saw that it was almost 5:15. The sky was short at this time and the sun had set at around 4:30. It was already a bit dark at 5:15. I think we should go back for dinner. Fat Ant lowered her voice and said to Zhao Yulan, after all, you live in Chuxia's husband's house, and besides, I have a daughter-in-law who has never married there. It's not good for her to leave her alone. You also know how stubborn my hunky is. It's not easy to meet someone you like, but we can't break up again. My father-in-law and my husband's mother-in-law have already agreed in early summer to let you stay for dinner. Zhao Yulan looked at her with a troubled expression. What do you want them to think if you just leave like this? The Fat Ant looked at Luo Gangshan hesitantly, not knowing what to do. Lin Baohe was sitting in front of the window and happened to see a few juniors walking in chatting and laughing. He looked around and said with a smile, Cha Xiang, your daughter-in-law is here. Really? Fat Ant looked at her with disbelief. Baohe, are you kidding me? A child as sensible as my Xia will definitely put your worries first. Lin Baohe raised his eyebrows proudly. If you don't believe me, ask later, it must be my daughter's idea. The Fat Ant walked to the window hesitantly, saw only the empty yard, and glared at Lin Baohe. I knew you were teasing me, forget it, for Xia, we have to stay. If we break up again, that means the fate of the red flag has not yet arrived. Lin Baohe shook his head funny and turned his eyes to the door. Chu Xia and others entered the hall and greeted the elders before arriving at the side hall. When they opened the door, they saw 8 pairs of eyes staring at the door. What are you doing? Chu Xia was startled and unconsciously took a step back and looked at Zhao Yulan. Mom, it's too scary for you to look at people like this. Can we be more reserved? Second girl is here, Fat Ant asked straight to the point. Auntie, I'm here. Zhang Erniu hurriedly squeezed forward and waved her paw at Fat Ant to indicate that she was here. Xia, is it your idea to take Erniu over too? Fat Ant looked at Chu Xia with a smile and asked. Yeah, what's wrong? Chu Xia looked at her doubtfully. Fat Ant, don't look at me like that, I'm scared. Your father just said that this must be your idea. I just want to see if your father really understands you. Early summer. After dinner at the Zhou family, Zhou Mikang and Chu Xia sent the Luo family back to their residence. As soon as the car stopped, Zhang Erniu ran to the medical area. To be continued. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 622. One update arrived. Luo Gangshun and Fat Ant already knew what happened before. They also felt that their daughter had acted impulsively, but they thought that her daughter was doing this to vent her anger on her future sister-in-law, so they didn't say anything more. Now they saw the actions of their future daughter-in-law. Smiled bitterly, Xiaoxian, don't ask Ernio in your way in the future. She was restless this night and didn't eat well. Do you really think you did the right thing? As for that, Luo Xiaoxian rolled her eyes speechlessly. Besides, if the woman doesn't dare to do anything if she's not completely sure, how could I really lock her in? Are you looking down on me too much? What confidence do you have? Chu Xia looked at her curiously. Is there any gossip that I don't know about? Let me know. Luo Xiaoxian. This person is too nosy. Don't talk about gossips for now. Go over and see Ernio. Don't let her suffer. The Fat Ant pushed her daughter as she spoke. When she saw Chu Xia, she wanted to follow her and grabbed her. Don't let her suffer. Go home quickly, don't let the elders worry. I came out with Zhou Mikang, they won't worry. Chu Xia tried hard to pull out the hand held by the Fat Ant, but the other party's strength was too strong, she couldn't get away at all, so she looked at Zhou Mikang anxiously, hoping that the other party can you put in a good word for her. She is not really that nosy. If Luo Xiaoxian and Ning King can get into a fight, everything that is justified or not will be ignored. If they are recorded and punished, it will have a great impact on future development. Of course, she can ask the Zhou family for help, and Dean Su will not just sit idly by. But if this kind of thing really gets out of hand, no one can wipe it clean. No matter what Ning King's character is. In this matter, outsiders would seem to think she is weak, earning enough sympathy points. Add a little artificial push, and it will be useless for anyone to step forward. But she didn't dare to voice her worries in front of her Fat Ant, otherwise she would scare her to death. As Zhang Ernio said, Luo Xiaoxian is a benchmark figure in the Luo family. Zhou Mixang knew very well the relationship between Chu Xia and Luo Xiaoxian, and he didn't think Luo Xiaoxian had done anything wrong. Young man, if he didn't have any blood, are you still called a young person? Therefore, after receiving Chu Xia's distress message, he immediately offered help, and, let her go, otherwise, she won't be able to sleep even when she gets home. Let's go. Before Fat Ant could say anything, Chu Xia had already pulled Luo Xiaoxian and ran away. Fat Ant shook her head helplessly, these two are still children at all. Hey, when did the red flag disappear? When you held Chu Xia just now. He ran away and I went over to have a look. Zhao Qiliang said as he chased after Luo Xiaoxian and Chu Xia. In a blink of an eye, only Luo Gangshun and his wife and Zhou Mixang were left. Uncle. And, let's go back to the room first, don't worry. They can handle it well, let's talk about it later. If it can't be handled well, won't I still be there, Zhou Mikang said. No wonder some kids are so bold. With such a big backer. Sighing secretly, the Fat Ant followed her husband and Zhou Mikang back to the guest house room obediently. When Zhang Ernio ran to the office, the door was still locked and there was no sound at all. She was a little panicked and hurriedly took the key to open the door. She saw Ning King curled up and squatting at the door. Senior sister. She groaned and didn't know what to say. The moment the door opened, Ning King also raised her head. She was stunned for a moment, then she stood up and rushed to tear Zhang Ernio apart. How could you really just lock me up here, my parents and grandparents, how anxious should you be if you can't see me? Zhang Ernio, I will never let you off lightly this time, go back to your hometown and plant your land. Senior sister, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, you didn't eat, right? As soon as the question came out, Zhang Ernio wanted to slap herself. This is not nonsense. If Ning King could eat, is there any need to squat here? Eat your head. Eat. Ning King kicked Zhang Ernio like crazy, You've eaten and drank enough, right? Country bumpkin, I'll hum you up. If I can't drive you out of the hospital, I'll tm surname is not Ning. When Lugo Hunky ran over, he happened to see Ning Kinkin kicking Jong Ernio and cursing like a shrew, which attracted all the doctors and nurses on duty to come out to watch the fun. It was probably because they knew about Ning Kinkin being locked up in the office before, but no one came forward to persuade her. Stop. Lugo Hunky stood in front of Jong Ernio and glared at Ning Kinkin angrily. It's not Ernio who locked you up. What kind of prestige are you trying to show to her? If you don't learn skills well, you will do this insidiously. Is this considered your skill? How could I be so sinister? Ning Kinkin kept kicking Lugo Hunky. How could I be so sinister that they lock me in the room for half the night? It's the first day of the new year, how could I do such a thing? Are you still calling me sinister? Seeing the footprints raining down on Lugo Hunky's legs, Jong Ernio dragged him back anxiously. Don't worry, I caused the trouble myself and I will solve it myself. You can go back quickly. Why did you get into trouble? Lugo Hunky pulled her behind him. You have been bullied by her from the beginning to the end. My sister couldn't stand it, so she helped you vent your anger. Besides, didn't she agree to let my sister take it out? Did she lock herself in the room? Why are you blaming her now? I asked her to kick her because she is a woman, not because I thought she was really wronged. Poof. The little nurses watching the fun burst into laughter. If they didn't have a brain problem, who would let others lock themselves in the room? This big man is too capable of fighting for 3 points. Lugo Hunky had been in the hospital for a while with a foot injury. Many young nurses knew him, and some of them laughed and joked, Comrade Lugo, be careful to avoid foot injuries, and don't get beaten before you come in. Jong Ernio became even more anxious when she heard this, but she was too weak to drag Lugo Hunky away. But Ning Kinkin couldn't stop like crazy, so she cried anxiously, Senior sister, please, please. Stop kicking him, what if the injury on his foot recurs? It's a good thing she didn't say that. Being woken up by her kick, Jong Ernio, who had slowed down, frantically greeted Lugo Hunky's ankle again. Stop it, Lugo Xiaoxiang and Chu Xia finally rushed over. Seeing that Ning Kinkin didn't listen to her orders, Lugo Xiaoxiang increased her voice, you want me to invite Jiao? Said at this point, she deliberately paused, and sure enough, Ning Kinkin quickly stopped moving as if she had been immobilized. Walking up to Ning Kinkin openly, Lugo Xiaoxiang whispered in her ear, we were joking about what happened today, and you got annoyed. If I hear the second theory, you try give it a try. Of course, if Director Chiao Gang wants her wife to know something, I'll be happy to help. Chu Xia took this opportunity to pull Jong Ernio and look her up and down. Where did you hit it? Are you okay? Do you want to go check it out and see if it hurts anywhere? Let's take a film. The more she asked, the more exaggerated she became. The doctors, nurses, and patients' family members who were watching the excitement all shook their heads in amusement. What a big deal, and they even had to take a film. Will they have to go into the operating room? Happy New Year everyone. Suddenly, Ning Kinkin bowed to everyone with a smile on her face. I'm very sorry, this was a little joke deliberately made by a few of us. The reason was that Ernio's friend came to pick her up after get off work. My attitude towards Ernio was not very good, so her friend said a few words to me. I was very angry at the time and said Ernio was a loser. Then her friends said that regardless of whether Ernio was a wimp or not, she was more popular than me, and that I was jealous of her. So, I made a bet with them, saying that if they locked me in the room, as long as I asked for help, someone was bound to break down the door and get me out. Facts have proved that I lost. When I asked for help, everyone did come to watch the fun, but no one was willing to kick open the door and rescue me. It seems that I really need to restrain my temper in the future. I apologize to everyone again. It was my willfulness that delayed everyone's rest. I lost the bet this time. I will treat everyone to peanut candy tomorrow. 2 pieces per person. 2 yuan is not enough, you have to have 4 yuan no matter what, right? No one talks about 4 during the Chinese New Year. 6 yuan is better. 6 yuan is a great success. There was a burst of cheers from the crowd. Ning Kinkin forced herself to smile and begged everyone for mercy, saying that 2 yuan per person was her limit. No more, and it would be impossible to sell her. What to do with my brother's leg? How could Luo Xiaoxiang spare her so easily? She lifted up Luo Hunky's trouser legs and pointed a piece of green on her ankle to Ning Kinkin. It was originally a joke, how could you do such a cruel thing? Do you have the heart to lose, are you unwilling? No, no, Ning Kinkin was a little dumbfounded when she saw the green patch. This man didn't hide after being kicked like this. Could it be that he was made of iron? Suddenly, Luo Hunky's image in her mind grew taller. After a moment's hesitation, she looked at Luo Xiaoxiang and said, I will listen to you no matter what you want me to do. Real. Real. After a pause, Luo Xiaoxiang said, forget it, let's just think that my brother suffered for Niu. You must promise me that you will never bully Niu again, otherwise, I will slap your face until it becomes swollen. Okay, okay, Ning Kinkin nodded repeatedly, with a humbly accepting look on her face, I will definitely not bully Niu again, and I will be friends with her. I lost the bet today, and I am willing to admit defeat. The storm just subsided. Chu Xia and Luo Xiaoxiang walked back with Zhang Erniu. Luo Hunky limped behind. Zhao Qiliang looked at his legs for a while and laughed, okay, there's no one here anymore. Oh, in response, Luo Hunky, who was originally limping, walked normally. Are you okay? Zhang Erniu stopped and looked at Luo Hunky with surprise, did you just pretend? To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 623. Second update arrived. Being asked so straightforwardly by Zhang Erniu, Luo Hunky felt a little embarrassed, so she responded vaguely and explained, Qing is true. She was very cruel when she kicked. Why don't you hide? Zhang Erniu looked at him with tears in her eyes, it's okay if you avoid her and can't kick her. Then why didn't you hide? If he hadn't stopped him in time, this silly girl would have been kicked to pieces by that woman. Looking at Luo Xiaoxiang quietly, Zhang Erniu expressed her worries anxiously, I'm afraid that she will stick to this matter and affect Xiaoxiang. A few kicks will help relieve her anger. How dare you say that? Luo Xiaoxiang glared at her angrily, didn't I tell you that she wouldn't dare to make a big fuss? Do you really think I'm that reckless? Yes, you are my sister-in-law and my friend. When I see you being bullied, I want to stand up for you. But as far as the grievances you have suffered, I have to deal with her before I lose my future. Situation. Sorry, I do not know. Nonsense, if you knew about it, would you still do something stupid like that? You don't trust me, you know, your fault is that you don't trust me, Luo Xiaoxiang angrily threw her hand away, only pulling Chu Xia towards go ahead. Don't be angry. If Niu didn't feel sorry for you, she wouldn't have done such a stupid thing. Besides, let alone her, I have known you for so long, and I am still a little doubtful. Chu Xiaobian, he coaxed her while gossiping, what on earth did you threaten her with to make her follow your wishes so happily? I didn't threaten her. She surrendered to my charm and did what I asked. Okay. Chu Xia rubbed her head in a funny way. A little bragging is enough. It's too far-fetched. You can't make people believe it. Tell me the truth. Otherwise, I won't tell you anything in the future. I won't tell you. I'll make you unable to sleep at night. Okay, if you don't say it, don't say it. Just don't regret it in the future. After Chusia said it, she stopped asking questions. This made Luo Xiaoxian feel uneasy. She just wanted to tease her good friend. If the other party let the other party do it because of this matter, I think she didn't say it because she didn't trust her, which is not worth it. After waiting for a long time, Chusia showed no intention to continue asking. I had to pour the beans into the bamboo tube myself. Don't I often come to see Er Niu? Sometimes Er Niu happens to be on duty, so I just wander around. It was a coincidence that day I walked into the warehouse and heard Ning Kinkin's voice inside. I listened curiously and found out that she was talking to Director Chiao of the security department. What was the content? It's just a matter of friendship between the two of them. I didn't take it seriously at first, but a few days later when I went to find Erniu, I happened to meet Director Chiao's wife and her son coming to see him. The whole family was chatting and laughing at the door for a long time. Director Chiao seemed to be quite afraid of his wife. You know, I'm a curious person sometimes, so I deliberately walked past them and listened. It turned out that day was the birthday of Director Chiao's father-in-law, and the family was discussing how to celebrate the old man's birthday. The key is the key. Director Chiao's father-in-law is actually the deputy director of the Municipal Revolutionary Committee, and Director Chiao can be the director of the security department of the resident hospital. All thanks to his father-in-law. Do you think someone like him would dare to fall out with his wife? So I guessed that the matter between Ning Kinkin and Director Chiao did not dare to come to the fore. The interactions between the two were nothing more than hooliganism. You said under such circumstances, Ning Kinkin dare not listen to me? Gossip is nothing to be ashamed of. Look at the embarrassed look on your face. Glaring at her, Chusia gave her a thumbs up. Good job. Keep this vigilance in the future to ensure that you can easily don't mess with other people's opinions. The group returned to the guest house room. The fat aunt quickly stood up and looked at her future daughter-in-law carefully. She breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that there were no signs of being beaten. Zhou Mikang looked at Chusia. Knowing what he meant, Chusia explained to him, "It's okay, and nothing will happen in the future. Uncle Luo, Aunt Xiao, it's getting late. We're going back. We'll see you another day." Since nothing happened, Zhou Mikang stood up and said goodbye. Luo Gangshun and Fat Aunt said kind words with grateful expressions, and sent Chusia and Zhou Mikang out of the house. When they got home, Chusia went to her parents' room first. As expected, the two of them didn't sleep. They knew they were worried about Luo Xiaoxian. Chusia quickly recounted the details. How could a little girl do something like that? Zhao Yulan frowned slightly and looked at her daughter. You mean that Ning Kinkin admitted her mistake to Hunky and expressed her attitude to Xiaoxian, but her attitude was still particularly good? Yes, Chusia nodded. Mom, I didn't lie to you. If you don't believe me, you can ask Fat Aunt another time. Zhao Yulan sighed. It's not that I don't believe what you said, I'm worried that the girl named Ning Kinkin won't do good things and harm Hongqi and Er Niu. After being stunned for a moment, Chusia immediately understood what Zhao Yulan meant. When she thought about it carefully, her expression became serious. There was indeed something wrong with the way Ning Kinkin looked at Luo Hunky. No, she has to tell Luo Xiaoxian quickly tomorrow and ask her to remind her brother not to talk about Ning Kinkin. The key is to remind Zhang Erniu not to interact with that Ning Kinkin, and don't let him use the name of a friend. Poached her corner. Seeing that her daughter understood what she meant, Zhao Yulan changed the topic. By the way, Xia, your fat aunt and Uncle Gangshun said today that their future daughter-in-law's parents and grandma will come to Sidia on the 6th day of the Lunar New Year. Let's make sure stay and help. I did miss this matter when I made the plan that day. Zhou Mikang and I had promised Aunt Fatty and Uncle Gangshun that it was right for them to stay. Why don't we go to Lin's house in Beijing first, and then turn back and entertain Ernie's family before we go back to our hometown. In this case, we can send a telegram to Grandma and Grandpa first so that they won't have to wait anxiously. Okay Linbao, he nodded, I will go and send a telegram to your Grandma and Grandpa early tomorrow morning. After the matter was settled, Chu Xia went back to inform Joe McSang. What she meant was that if Joe McSang didn't have time, just send someone else to take them home. Anyway, there would be nothing wrong with her accompanying her parents then. Relieved. I have time, why don't I have time? Joe McSang looked at her calmly, even if I really don't have time, I must squeeze it out. In the first year of marriage, I should go back with my father-in-law and mother-in-law. Okay, of course it would be best if you could go back together, but remember what I said, don't force it. We have a long time to come, and it's not like we won't have any opportunities after this year. Joe McSang. How do you speak during the Chinese New Year? Early the next morning, Joe McSang received a call from Jin Yu, saying that Lian Rui was out of danger and was fine. Originally, Joe McSang didn't care much about Lian Rui's affairs, so he just acknowledged it and changed the subject. Jin Yu on the other end of the phone chatted with him for a few words, then hung up the phone, then looked at his cousin who was sitting beside the phone blankly. You heard it, right? He doesn't have the kind of feelings for you that you imagined. Can you give up now? Lian Rui's face was pale, and her wrists were wrapped with thick gauze. She was discharged from the hospital yesterday. Of course, the doctor would not allow her to be discharged from the hospital so early, but since she was threatening death, he could only do it in advance. Discharge procedures. A person who is not even afraid of death actually gossips with acquaintances. Everyone is speechless about her thoughts, but it makes sense if you think about it carefully. If you die, it will be over. You can't hear what others say anyway. But when you are alive, it is impossible to cover your ears and not listen to rumors. That's why there is a saying that the tongue is a knife that kills without showing blood. The first thing Lian Rui did after being discharged from the hospital was to ask Jinyu if Joe McSang was really married. Afraid that she would commit suicide again, Jinyu vaguely didn't want to say anything. Finally, after she said that she felt she should persevere and that Joe McSang actually loved her, he couldn't bear it anymore and Jinyu called Joe McSang's family. Telephone. Can you accompany me to meet him? Lian Rui looked at him and asked. Why are you seeing him? Jinyu looked at his cousin speechlessly. Could it be that he committed suicide and damaged his brain? To be able to say such nonsense, does she know what her last name is and who she is? I just want to ask if he has ever liked me, Lian Rui said to herself. Originally I thought I had forgotten him, but when the blood flowed from my wrist, it came to my mind it was him, and the most shocking thing was not being able to see him again, so I have to give myself an explanation. It really hurts my brain. Jinyu looked at her with a sad look on his face. Sister, please stop making trouble, okay? I'm already married, and I'm quite in love with my wife, so why do you have to watch and be stimulated? I don't intend to break them up, I just want to ask if what I gave up was right or wrong. Is there any point in asking these questions now? Yes, Lian Rui looked at him seriously, this affects what I will do in the future. The more he talked, the more mysterious he became. Jinyu looked at his aunt and his mother, who were sitting silently on the side. I have done everything I can. Please advise her. How can she do this? Aunt Jinyu sighed and looked at her daughter. Rui, didn't mom tell you, don't even think about Xiaomi's child. He is really not suitable for you. Even if that thing didn't happen, the relationship between you two it's also impossible. I don't plan to marry him, I just want to ask him if he is willing to help me get revenge. I want to catch the man who harmed me, and I want to draw lots from him. Lian Rui shook his hand fiercely. Yes. He has harmed me all my life, and I will make his life worse than death. To be continued. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 624. Please remember the website address of this website. Please recommend promotional introduction to your QQ group Weibo/WeChat forum post bar. One update arrived. After Lian Rui finished speaking, the room fell into dead silence. After that incident happened, everyone had been avoiding mentioning it again. Now that she said it so clearly, Jin's mother and Aunt Jin were a little at a loss. Do you think you can forget me without mentioning me? Lian Rui smiled sarcastically. How is that possible? If I really forgot and really didn't mind, I would have taken the initiative to pursue Zhou Mikang. I admit, as long as he doesn't get married, I will have a vague expectation, thinking that my opportunity will come when he gets older and can't find the right one. I also understand that this is basically whimsical and self-deceptive, but people always have to give themselves some hope to survive. Unfortunately, this hope was dashed in no time. In fact, I feel that I am very contradictory. I know that it is impossible to be with him, but I can't help but fantasize about it. I will not regret it if I can't see him. In fact, what I hope more is that we will never see him again. If there is no news about him, then I will always think that he is still single and I still have a chance. It wasn't until I fainted that I realized that nothing was more important than my own life. If I died like that, the man who harmed me would always be at large, and the man I love would never know that I cared about him so much. Now that I'm alive, I don't want to waste any more time. I want to tell him that I used to like him so much, but he is already married, so I wish him happiness. If he once had a slight affection for me, then no matter whether he can meet a man he likes in the future or not, I can live happily. But the man who harmed me, I will never let him go. He ruined my life. If Zhou Mikang is not willing to help me, I will check and find it myself. My poor child. Aunt Jin held her daughter in her arms and burst into tears. Why are you crying like this for your life? Mom, it was my ignorance that caused me harm. It is all my fault that my father and mother have not been able to eat well and sleep well all these years. I'm sorry. This was the first time since her birth that her daughter had admitted her mistakes head-on. Instead of feeling happy, Aunt Jin felt inexplicably flustered. Her arms around her daughter tightened unconsciously. Rui, you can't leave. Mom and Dad, as long as you are here, your dad and I will not be afraid of anything and live a successful life. Mom. Don't worry, I won't do stupid things again. I really figured it out. Lian Rui patted Aunt Jin on the back comfortingly and said, the gate of hell is behind closed doors. If you are still ignorant, just stop living. Xiao, help your sister. Aunt Jin looked at Jinyu, who was sitting silently. After the matter is resolved, she can let go of her burden and make some plans for her future life. After hesitating, Jinyu looked at Lian Rui. Sister, I can ask Laozhou for help in investigating the case, but there is no need to ask him if he has ever liked you, right? It is very necessary for me. Lian Rui looked at him seriously. This will be the spiritual pillar to support my survival, so I must know. What if he doesn't like you? If he doesn't like me, I will accept blind dates from now on. As long as my mother likes her, I will marry him. After a pause, Lian Rui said, but I have to ask him personally. If he says he is not lying, you can only know it by looking into his eyes. Xiao, for the sake of her being the only daughter of your uncle and I, please help her. Her life is connected with that of her aunt and uncle. Your sister has also made it clear that she will not pester Zhou Mikang. She just wants to know what he is thinking. At least let her see him and give up. Jin's mother also sighed. Xiao, your aunt and your uncle are feeling aggrieved. Mom knows that your uncle and his 3 brothers all have sons and daughters, and your uncle only has a daughter. Your aunt has not been welcomed by her husband's family since she was young. Now that other people's children are married, the pressure on your aunt is even heavier. Your aunt and uncle-in-law have to fight for your sister's face. Mom knows that this makes you a little embarrassed, but this is it, okay. After being silent for a long time, Jinyu nodded, picked up the phone and called Zhou Mikang back. It was Zhang's mother who answered, saying that Zhou Mikang had gone to the group for a meeting. Could he know that you were looking for him because of me and deliberately lied? Lian Rui asked with a suspicious look on his face. Jinyu looked at her speechlessly. Sister, you heard it too. His servant answered the phone. After I finished speaking, she immediately said that Zhou Mikang had gone to the group. Forget it, I will give it to Zhou Mi now. Kang's office is calling, please listen, okay. As he spoke, he dialed the number of Zhou Mikang's office, and it was Zhou Hanliang who answered. He said he was looking for Zhou Mikang, saying that Captain Zhou should still be on the way and asked him to wait. Call back later. Did you hear that? Jinyu just put it on the speakerphone intentionally and asked Lian Rui after hanging up the phone, don't say you suspect that even Zhou Hanliang was warned by him in advance. You, as the only one, wouldn't let him hide to this extent. Why are you so cruel to me? Lian Rui looked at him aggrievedly. I just expressed my suspicions. If he really doesn't want to see me, I already know the answer. Why would we meet? Necessary. You should have told me earlier. Jinyu secretly shouted in his heart, if he knew that she meant this, he would just agree directly. Why go to all this trouble? As soon as Zhou Mikang entered the office, Zhou Hanliang told him that Jinyu was looking for him. Chu Xia, who was following behind, laughed, I guess it's his cousin who wants to see you. Sister-in-law, are you a little jealous? Zhou Hanliang looked at her with a gossipy face, if it's you, just say it so that the leader doesn't know what you think. What do I have to be jealous of? I'm just making a guess. Chu Xia pushed Zhou Mikang towards the desk, hurry up and call me to see if my guess is right. Zhou Mikang. Shouldn't we be so forceful with our curiosity? However, he didn't want Jinyu to misunderstand that he was hiding on purpose, so he glared at Chuxia and dialed Jinyu's phone. Jinyu, are you looking for me? Yes, my sister wants to see you. She has something to ask you face to face, and promises not to pester you anymore. Jinyu sighed after finishing speaking. You should discuss it with your siblings first before making a decision, so as not to cause any trouble later. Misunderstand. Zhou Mikang glanced at Chu Xia and saw that the other party was looking at him with big eyes and a gossipy look on his face, so he said helplessly, there is nothing to misunderstand, she is here. Just now I heard Han Liang say you called me, I have already guessed the reason, and you are forcing me to call you. Then when do you think we can meet? Let's go in the afternoon. I have a meeting in the morning and I'll make an appointment to go to your store in the afternoon. If you have nothing to do, I'll look for the novels you have there and tie them up for me. Okay. Jinyu chuckled, when did you get better at this? It's not me who likes this, it's your sister-in-law and her friends who like me. Are you satisfied with my answer? If my brother and sister want it, then I have to search hard. If you want it, I'm too lazy to rummage through the box. I won't waste your time. See you in the afternoon. After hanging up the phone, before Zhou Mikang could react, Chu Xia kissed her forehead hard. You are so good to me, I love you so much. Zhou Mikang's face turned red. Ever since they got married, his wife had never been so proactive and kind to him. She was a little flattered and embarrassed at the same time. Han Liang Tongzi was staring at him with a smirk on his face. In order to cover up his embarrassment, the group leader Tongzi wiped his forehead in disgust. Don't slobber everywhere, you're not a child. Okay, I'm going to be busy. You go to the guest house to play with Luo Xiaoxian. I'll go find you when I'm done. Really? Chu Xia came up to him and smiled narrowly. Are you sure you don't like me doing this to you? Think about it before you answer, so as not to regret it. What a clear threat. Although Zhou Hanliang didn't hear what Chu Xia said, He could guess from her expression that he had already walked to the door and deliberately turned back to stare at Joe Mikang to see how the other party would answer. The group leader Tongzi glared at the unaware Mulayang. You go to the conference room and wait for me first. I'll give your sister-in-law a few words and then go there. Using power to oppress others is so shameless. Zhou Hanliang cursed secretly and reluctantly took the first step. After thinking about it, he stepped back to the door and put his ear against the wall. Do it again. What? Do it again, faster. Why? Han Liang Tongzi smiled and shrugged his shoulders, and left with satisfaction. It turned out that the leader Tongzi was so sultry when he was carrying someone on his back, ha ha ha. Just as he was looking beautiful, he heard a rush of footsteps behind him, and he turned around reflexively. What are you looking at? Joe Mikang snorted coldly. You are hiding outside in a sneaky way, thinking I don't know. No, I wanted to deny it, but couldn't find a suitable reason, so I simply admitted it. Captain, seeing that you have such a good relationship with your sister-in-law, I am very happy for you. What does it have to do with you? Do you need to be happy for me? Joe Mikang poked him. Get your own affairs straightened out first. It is only right that you marry a daughter-in-law. Zhou Hanliang. Mr. Leader, can we not open a certain pot and lift a certain pot? He originally thought that his father-in-law and mother-in-law would quickly agree to let him marry Daodu after they accepted him and were so kind to him. Unexpectedly, he just mentioned it in an indirect way and was criticized by his mother-in-law. She told him clearly that she would be good to him. It has nothing to do with when he was asked to marry Daodu. What a scammer! Don't wait for such a scammer. He thought that he was about to embrace the beautiful woman after the clouds cleared and the moon came out. Captain, can you do less to rub salt in the wound? Nothing to show for it, he muttered, and the regiment leader's Wangzi quickened his pace. But he had no choice but to chase the group leader's Wangzi while licking his wounds. To be continued. Domain name of this book, please tell each other to promote it. Thank you. Use the Ctrl+D shortcut key to bookmark it.